Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel, the main event here. Today we're going to be talking about Knoxville Regionals finally. Question of the day, why is the format so fast changing? Because obviously the format has been very fast changing from week to week, from tournament to tournament, from online event to IRL event. Things have been changing, such as Total Webb's, his winning team, his championship team, first place team, represents a little bit of those changes. If you look at the team on paper, Ogerpon, Urshifu, Incineroar, very standard sets, very standard Terras, items, move sets, everything. So that's not really a big change. Granted, the uptick in Ogerpon Wellspring usage has been a very, very big change. He does have this really cool Assault Vest Snarl Raging Bolt, which is something I saw pick up a little bit, but not like, it didn't like jump like through the roof, right? So it's a very, very good adaptation that players have made, is the Snarl Terra Fairy Assault Vest set. Tornadus is also pretty standard. 3 moves, Protect, Rain Dance to help like protect the Gholdengo and also to help boost the Ogerpon. Also to deal with opposing weather, I would assume, because you kind of have to be wary of random stuff like sun and sand, apparently, because people have been using sand a little bit. And then the Gholdengo. Gholdengo is a Pokemon that tends to ebb and flow a bit, where sometimes it's really high in usage, sometimes it's really not high in usage, that's really low. It seems to go with whatever the format needs. So for example, this format, Fluttermane is like really, really climbing back to the top, or it has been for past few events, one of the few constants. Gholdengo with Terra is pretty good into Fluttermane, especially with the medical item, because it does a lot of damage even before Nasty Plot, and then after Nasty Plot, there's no way a Flutter could survive or make it rain. So it's really good into that. Also coming into this tournament, people were really, really prepared for basically the Ting Lu Among Us Porygon stuff. That team does so bad into Gholdengo. Like, it does so bad into Gholdengo. You can see that like there's only one of those kind of teams in the top 8, even though they showed up a little bit. Like I said, the matchup is very, very poor for this team into Gholdengo. Let's look at it. Among Us can't touch Gholdengo with moves or with Spore. Fluttermane, while it can hit it for super effective with Shadow Ball, you just pop the Terra and you kind of just mitigate that weakness, right? Komodo, which is another part of the team, also did not have any answer for Gholdengo, right? Because let's look at the set. Iron Defense, Body Press, Iron Head, none of those moves can touch Gholdengo for anything, right? So Gholdengo kind of just sets up in front of it and just blows it up. Even if it Terra Steals, Mega Rain will kill it if Gholdengo is set up, because it can't touch Gholdengo back. Porygon 2 here, Trick Room, Ice Beam, Recover, Terra Blast. Terra Blast doesn't touch it. Ice Beam doesn't touch it. Trick Room is fine. You can recover all you want, but it's just gonna get to +6 on you. Even Ting Lu, because like Ting Lu's dark type move is Snarl, which is kind of the move of choice I think it was for this tournament, doesn't do enough damage to Gholdengo quickly. It also doesn't lower Gholdengo faster than Nasty Plot raises it up. And like Stomping Tantrum is so easily played around with Terra and like your own like Incineroar or something with Fake Out and Intimidate, Redirection on the Stomping Tantrum. It just makes it really easy for Gholdengo to play around Ting Lu. So like this team, which was supposed to come in and dominate this tournament, only had one in the top 8. Because like I said, I think it just, people were prepared for it, especially Total, because Gholdengo was a perfect call. But he wasn't the only one who had Gholdengo, right? If you look at the usage chart, which I'm gonna get back down to right now, you can see that the even though it wasn't very big in day 1, day 2 it made the top 12 usage, right? So if we go over to Top Cut Explorer, you go to the top 128, which is like I told you guys before, you can't see the drop down. 16 Gholdengos in top 128. In day 2, overall there were 6 Gholdengos. In the top 8 it was just the 1, because it is still a hard Pokemon to use, I think, which is why you probably didn't see it more in top 8. But like the fact that it snuck into the top 12 on the day 2 usage is pretty astounding, because considering that there are a lot of mines that are pretty good into Gholdengo. For example, like Fluttermane does have a decent matchup against it overall, right? Champ Pow is back in day 1 usage, which has a pretty good matchup into Gholdengo with like Sucker Punch. Urshifu Single Strike, which is 25% on day 1 and 38% on day 2, has a pretty good matchup into it. Lando has a pretty good matchup into it. Incineroar has a good matchup into it. But like I said, there's other stuff that don't have good matchup into it, right? Like Fridge Draft does not. It's a bit weird with the Ogerpon Wellspring, because it can make it rain, but Shadow Balls can chunk it. Rillaboom doesn't really do much into Gholdengo. Among Us does nothing into Gholdengo. The Raging Bolt is a weird matchup into it. Urshifu Rapid Strike is also another weird matchup into it. So like, but there are Pokemon that it does good against, some it does not good against. But I think just the way the tournament played out was a good time for Gholdengo to resurge again. Especially because there was a lot less Ursaluna Blood Moon for Giraffe stuff. which I think fell off because of the Tinglu Porygon Amoonguss stuff, because those mons are one, slower under Trick Room. Tinglu mitigates the special attack stat. Amoonguss is kind of really bad for both of them, because if you can't kill the Amoonguss in one hit, it can kind of just do its thing on you, which is really bad. The Porygon with the Tinglu can take the hits. You can like try to Blood Moon something, it'll just take the hit and recover off the damage. And then what'll end up happening is you're wasting turn to Trick Room, and you're also not able to Blood Moon twice in a row, right? So it kind of makes sense why it fell off a little bit this tournament. Let me see, where's the Blood Moon Ursaluna? So Ursaluna Blood Moon, there was 17 in top 128, which is not bad, right? It still did all right as far as getting it to top 128. That's day one stuff. Like on day two, there was 3 Ursaluna Blood Moons out of 40 teams, which is not what you would expect, right? For this tournament, for a Pokemon that's kind of been dominating the usage, dominating the results, I want to say, not the usage, because it hasn't been on the top of the usage charts, but the people who have brought it have done really, really well with it. Yeah, it's pretty standard teammates for Giraffe, Ogerpon, Fluttermane, Urshifu, even Glamora, some of the teams. But yeah, it just hasn't done as well. The top 8, there was none, right? Absolutely none of them, as you can see the top 8 teams here. So for a Pokemon that was on the radar very heavily, it showed, because people were kind of way more prepared for it. Komodo, I think with like the sound moves, can take a hyper voice. And that's in like, how many Komodos were there in top 8? No, it was 1 in top 8. I want to see how many were in top 128 for the Komodos. There was 3 Komodos, so it actually did not place that well, because in top day 2, which is the top 40 teams essentially, I don't even know if any Komodos made it besides the one. 3 Komodos made it. That's interesting. So is that like 100% conversion actually? Is that 100% for Komodo? Yeah, 3 for 3. So 3 Komodos from top 128 made it to day 2. That's pretty funny. And then the 1 made it to so it converted pretty well. It wasn't that high usage, but it converted pretty well. Some other takeaways from the event itself, especially for the usage chart, you see Urshifu Single Strike is behind Urshifu Rapid Strike on day 1. Urshifu Rapid Strike at 26% and the Single Strike at 25%. I'm glad they separated those. But on day 2, there was no Rapid Strike and 38% Single Strike. The reason I think for that is a few things. One, in VGC, there's a thing called role compression. What that means is, like, if you can sometimes find a mon to fill a role or the role of multiple Pokemon in a kind of way, you end up using that Pokemon more than its counterparts, which is something that happened with like Palafin, for example. People were using like Palafin and Arcanine, and what they were able to do with Palafin and like Arcanine was use Gyarados, right? You get a water type that can do some good damage. You can also get an Intimidator. You can use it offensive, you can use it support, you could Terra Blast. So like it was able to basically take 2 Pokemon's jobs and do both of them a little bit, and allow you to do something else with the other spot. What's happening here is Ogerpon, you can see, was 48% on day 1 and 66% on day 2, the highest used Pokemon. So what does it do? One, it counters Urshifu Rapid Strike really hard, right? Because you can't Surging Strikes it. And if you get close combat, you won't kill it, and then Hornleech will kill you at the -1 defense, and you just get its health back, right? On top of that, it's a very good water offensive damage, right? It can crit through its Intimidate drops if it needs to. It can Terra into the water, get more damage. And also it has like the grass typing as a dual typing, so it's not as weak to stuff like electric, right? Even if it Terras, it gets the special defense boost. So like a special defense is just way better than Urshifu's. So what you can do is then you can take the Water Pond and pair it with the Dark Urshifu, because Dark is a very good neutral typing right now, right? Nothing's really like immune to it the way the water types are. So you can use Water Pond and Dark Urshifu versus using the Rapid Strike variant right now. Which gives you a better matchup into a lot of stuff on the list, for example. So like Dark Urshifu gives you a better matchup into Virgiraf, forces it to Terra a lot of time. Gives you a better matchup into Rillaboom, because as you can see, Rillaboom, even though it dropped out of day 2 usage, which is kind of crazy, Rillaboom is a good hard counter to Water Urshifu. And like we've always had these things, but we haven't had this many at one time in the usage chart. So like there's a Moongus, which is really good into Water Urshifu, especially with Rocky Helmet. But Dark Urshifu chunks it for neutral damage and only takes 1 chip of Rocky Helmet instead of taking 3 chips. What you call it, the Raging Bolt, does not want to take a Wicked Blow, so it kind of pops the Terra Fairy sometimes, right? Whereas it can take these Surging Strikes pretty well. And also like the dark foods tend to run Sash, whereas like the water foods tend to run Mystic Water or Scarf. They don't really run the Sash item anymore. So you can kind of just beat it in one hit with like the Thunderclap. You can't do that with Dark Urshifu, right? So it gives you a bit of an advantage there. The Ogerpons are really, really good into it because it's water absorb. Even stuff like the the Gouging Fire. It kind of sits in the field in front of Water Urshifu because it just takes Surging Strike so well. It takes it so well, and a lot of times this mon will get paired in like Sun teams, which makes it a bit rough for Water Ursh. So yeah, Water Ursh has been a bit on the decline. It was on a decline in the event, the Charlotte event as well, but it still won the event, right? So people didn't really think too much of it, but like it didn't win this event. And if you look at the top 8, Urshifu 4, Urshifu is that's the single strike variant. And there was one Urshifu Rapid Strike in top 8. I'm not sure, was it Norris? Let me see. It was Norris, Urshifu Rapid Strike. And she did it with Nora did it with Amoonguss, Incineroar, Frigiraffe, Raging Bolt, Landorus. So some of the wolf stuff, but with Raging Bolt and Lando I instead of instead of the Blood Moon and the Ogerpon. Speaking of Lando I, while it wasn't in the usage chart for day 1, it was in the top 6 for day 2, which is a crazy conversion, right? Why did this happen? So I think a few reasons why I was able to sneak in. One, I think with like Blood Moon falling out, people are using Lando I because it's more immediate damage. Sometimes with stuff like Blood Moon, where you want to have like a turn to get Trick Room up, or like if you have a Tailwind mode, it's still slower than like the opposing team's Tailwind mode. Whereas Lando I is like base 101 speed, if I'm correct. It's more immediate damage, right? Without having to set up and not always having to pop the Terra, right? It's not really a Terra hog in that way. It's also good into a lot of the other Pokemon that are good. So Lando I is good into stuff like Rillaboom because it has the Terra Poison Sludge Bomb. It's good into the Raging Bolt, right? Raging Bolt is a electric type that likes to Terra Fairy. Lando hits both of those really, really hard. Not to mention it's a mutual electric. The Gouging Fire, Lando's really good into that. Incineroar, Lando's really good into that. Sub Lando is good into Amoonguss. So like it has a lot of things going for it that makes it a really, really good Pokemon again. I wonder how many the actual numbers show them popping up. Where is the where'd it go? Cut Explorer. There we go. So like in top 128, Landorus, 22 in the top 128. In the day 2 teams, which is 40, it was 12 out of 40, which is a pretty high number. And then in the top 8, were there any Lando? I think there was 2, right? Landorus 4. There was 4 Landos in top 8. Oh my gosh. So this Pokemon is just really good. Like because fire types are so strong, because grass types are so strong, and hitting them for super effective is just going to be really, really important. Not to mention the stuff that really, really beats Lando I is just not as prevalent. So Water Ursh falling out gives Lando I room to take its place. There's no Latios and Latias right now, which were really hard counters because they were levitate Pokemon, which could like Terra Poison and just wall it and then hit it with Ice Beam back. Maybe force it to Terra, but it just couldn't damage them at all. Those Pokemon are non-existent. So it gives this thing a really good advantage. Also, Terra Poison defensively is really good because you resist grass, you're neutral to water, you resist fairy, you resist like Sludge Bomb on Amoonguss. And not a lot of them run that, but I like to run that. It's neutral into pretty much everything else. So I think it's a good mon right now. I know it looked a little bit fraudulent prior to that, but it's a pretty strong Pokemon. So before we wrap up, I just want to look at the top 8 teams here again. Ogerpon, Fluttermane just works really well together, especially because like the stuff that resists fairy, like fire, is not good against Ogerpon, obviously, right? You see there's no like Dozos in the top 8. Not really any Dozos in day 2 overall, which is the top 40 teams. I think there might have been one Dozo Tatsugiri. Gholdengo, he's a Dozo Tatsu. He's a 2 guy. Dozo, he likes the Dozo Giri Champow D-Night stuff. So shout out to Gholdengo. He had it making it day 2. I don't see any. There's one more Dozo. Dalton Kaiser. I hope I'm saying. Oh, Strider. Okay, so yeah. Not a lot of Dozos because Dozos tend to fall off after they do well. So Dozo will probably pick up again soon because it's done pretty bad at the last 2 events. so that's when it does its most damage. Shout out to this person, Logan Presley, for using the Okidogi. I love Okidogis, like to see it succeed. Not as much side spam either. While it was never like a top 12 used Pokemon, side spam was picking up a bit. But I think people kind of got wary of Ting Lu picking back up. And like Ting Lu just tells side spam hard no, right? There's nothing they can really do against it. Even like that Terra Water helping hand stuff, I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually hurt the Ting Lu enough to stop it from getting off a Snarl and then like getting some health from its like teammate like a Moongus or something after it gets off another, or like Trick Room Snarl. Like it's just really bad. King Gambit makes it hard for side spam, and Cineroar makes it hard for side spam. So yeah, I can see why it wasn't like super duper successful. Shout out to Fiona for using Suicune, because I think that's the only Suicune I saw in day 2 completely. Suicune's a solid mon. But yeah, once again, you guys let me know, why is the format changing so quickly? And also bonus question, if you made it this far, what are the next set of changes you guys expect to see? Because I'm just not sure right now. It has to be like you know what, little bonus contest for you guys since we made it here. Kitakami, maybe I'll make a full video about this. So we look at the blueberry Pokedex, not Kitakami, my apologies. We got a lot of good stuff, right? A lot of good Pokemon, like, even like Magmar with Follow Me has been good. Electabuzz was good. 1, 2, these 2. Crown was viable for a bit, so that's 3. Our Charodon was 4. Yeah, so essentially those 4 mons have kind of just opened up. Oh, well, Incineroar also came back. So those 5 mons, let's not forget the GOAT. Those 5 Pokemon have essentially opened up the format and like the amount of team compositions you can run so much, because Incineroar 1 by itself just compresses roles so heavily, right? Damage mitigation, board control, item removal, all that stuff is just in one Pokemon. A Charodon is a Pokemon that can be like a really bulky body press user, or it could be a really offensive Electroshock user. The Raging Bull is really good. The Gouging Fire, Howl user, or offensive Dragon Dancer. Like, I think they just opened up team building really a lot in this format. Debatable whether or not that's a good thing, because sometimes, while some formats can be too centralizing, others can be too wide open where you can't cover for everything. And you find yourself trying to make a lot of meta calls that can backfire. I think there is a happy medium between the two. And I think this format will at some point settle there, where we kind of just know what is going to be good, but it's going to be a lot of things that we know are going to be good. So it won't be like a bunch of random things popping up anymore, but it's not going to be centralized like how Tornurture was very centralized. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm sorry for the delay in the uploads. You guys know I sometimes disappear because I got to deal with real life. But question today, format changing so fast. Thank you guys for being here. Click like for your boy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.